1944. Somewhere in the American Southwest. Barbed wire. Guard towers. A dry wind cutting across the desert. A group of Japanese prisoners of war are marched into a fenced compound. They expect beatings. They expect humiliation. Some expect execution. Instead, they are handed hamburgers, soft bread, hot meat, melted fat dripping onto paper plates. Then something even stranger, cold Coca-Cola, sweat forming on glass bottles. A sharp hiss as caps are removed. The prisoners stare at the food. No one speaks. One man begins to shake. Another lowers his head and quietly cries. A third refuses to eat, convinced this must be some kind of trick. These men fought for an empire that taught them surrender was worse than death. And now, after years of hunger, violence, and indoctrination, a simple American meal begins to destroy everything they were taught to believe. This is not a story about food. This is a story about how an idea collapses, about how war doesn't just kill bodies, it breaks belief systems. And it begins decades earlier, long before the first hamburger ever touched their hands. To understand why this moment mattered so much, you must understand Imperial Japan before World War II. Japan was not just a country preparing for war. It was a nation consumed by identity. After centuries of isolation, Japan modernized rapidly in the late 1800s. Factories replaced farms. Battleships replaced fishing boats. And victory after victory, against China, against Russia, convinced Japan of something dangerous, that they were destined to rule. By the 1930s, Japan's military had effectively taken control of the government. Civilian politicians were silenced. Dissent was punished. The emperor was no longer just a ruler. He was considered divine. Japanese children were taught that dying for the emperor was the highest honor possible. Soldiers were trained not as individuals, but as tools of the state. Surrender was not allowed. If captured, a soldier was considered already dead. This belief mattered because it shaped everything that came next. Japan needed resources. Oil, steel, rubber. The solution was expansion. Manchuria, China, Southeast Asia. And then, in December 1941, Japan made a decision that would seal its fate. They attacked Pearl Harbor. December 7th, 1941. The sky over Hawaii fills with aircraft bearing the red sun insignia. Bombs fall. Battleships burn. Sailors are trapped inside metal coffins as ships capsize. America wakes up to war. For Japan, early victories come fast. Hong Kong falls. Singapore collapses. The Philippines are overrun. But these victories come with a dark reality. Japanese soldiers are taught to show no mercy. Prisoners are abused. Civilians are massacred. In places like Nanjing, violence reaches unimaginable levels. Meanwhile, Japanese soldiers themselves suffer in silence. Food is rationed. Medical care is minimal. Beatings are common, even from their own officers. The military culture is brutal, hierarchical, and unforgiving. To show weakness is shameful. To complain is treason. As the war drags on, Japan's supply lines collapse. Soldiers starve on islands. Disease spreads. Men die alone in jungles, far from home. And still, surrender is forbidden, even when defeat becomes obvious. In June 1942, everything changed. The Battle of Midway. In just a few hours, Japan loses 4 aircraft carriers, the backbone of its navy. The loss is catastrophic. From that moment on, Japan is no longer advancing. It is bleeding. Guadalcanal, Saipan, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, island after island turns into slaughterhouses. American forces notice something strange. Japanese soldiers almost never surrender. They charge machine guns with bayonets. They leap off cliffs. They detonate grenades against their own chests. This terrifies American troops. It also leads to something else. When Japanese soldiers do surrender, often wounded, starving, or unconscious, they expect torture. They expect death. Instead, they are given water, medical treatment, food, and this confuses them more than any battlefield defeat ever could. By 1943 and 1944, thousands of Japanese POWs were transported to the United States, Arizona, Texas, New Mexico, Arkansas. They arrived skeletal. Some weigh less than 100 pounds. Many believe they are already dead. American guards are warned. These men have been told since childhood that Americans are monsters, that captivity means torture, that death is inevitable. The camps are strict but humane. Prisoners receive 3 meals a day, medical care, clean water, shelter, Red Cross inspections. And then comes the food: white bread, meat, milk, sugar, foods many prisoners have not seen in years. For some, the first bite causes nausea. Their stomachs cannot handle it. For others, it causes something deeper: confusion, shame, grief. One former POW later wrote, "I believe Americans would kill us slowly. Instead, they fed us better than our own army ever did." Hamburgers become a symbol. So does Coca-Cola. Sweet, fizzy, cold, something no Japanese soldier had ever tasted before. Some prisoners cry openly. Others refuse to drink it, convinced it must be poisoned. A few later admit the truth. The kindness hurt more than cruelty ever could, because it forced them to confront something unbearable, that they had been lied to. For many POWs, the greatest trauma is not captivity. It is a realization. They were told Americans were evil, that democracy was chaos, that surrender meant dishonor. But the guards do not beat them. Doctors treat their wounds. Officers speak calmly. Some guards even try to learn Japanese words. This creates a psychological earthquake. If the enemy is not evil, then what did they die for? Some prisoners attempt suicide inside the camps. Others withdraw completely. A few begin asking forbidden questions. Why did our officers starve us? Why were civilians treated as expendable? Why were lies necessary? For men raised on absolute obedience, these questions are devastating. One POW breaks down during an interview and says, "I survived the war, but the moment I understood the truth, I felt like I lost my entire life." August 1945. Hiroshima, Nagasaki, 2 cities erased in seconds. The Emperor speaks on the radio. For the first time in history, he announces surrender. Across POW camps in America, Japanese prisoners hear the news. Some collapse in relief. Others scream. Many sit in silence. Their empire is gone. Their god emperor is now human. Everything they believed has ended. When many return home, they are not welcomed as heroes. Former POWs are often shunned, seen as weak, as failures. Some never speak of their captivity again. Others remember the hamburgers. Coca-Cola, the moment when the enemy shattered their worldview, not with bombs, but with humanity. War teaches many lessons. Most are brutal. But sometimes the most powerful weapon is not violence. It is true, those Japanese prisoners did not break because of food. They broke because kindness exposed a lie that told them death was better than life, that obedience mattered more than humanity, that the enemy was less than human. And when that lie collapsed, it took an entire world with it. Today, as nations once again prepare for war, as propaganda fills screens, as enemies are painted as monsters, remember this: sometimes the most dangerous thing you can give an enemy is not a bullet. It is a mirror and the courage to let them see themselves clearly, because once belief dies, the war is already over.